Union Bank and Trust, member FDIC.
Harvest season is coming, and Acres has discounted many of our late model John Deere combines. Get thousands in discounts and upgrade for this year's harvest. Plus, you could save even more with interest rates starting as low as 1.9% on select units. Low interest rates combined with our huge discounts, there's not a better time to buy. Visit acres.com for all the details. That's AKRS.com. Restrictions apply. Offer ends August 31st, 2025. Subject to approved financing. Offer may change at any time without notice.
Hey fans, there's more winning at Amigos with the VIP Game Day giveaway. Every app scan is your chance to win premium tickets to a Nebraska football, basketball, and volleyball game, along with exclusive game day perks. And when Nebraska goes to a bowl, the winner also gets 2 tickets, lodging, and airfare to the bowl game. Weekly semifinalists will win free food for a year. Go Big Red. Eat at Amigos and enter to win.
You're listening to The Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters. Real stories, powerful insights, and weekly inspiration to help you rise above life's challenges. Let's lift off with Dr. Lawrence Chatters on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Lincoln, Nebraska, what's up? It's Dr. Lawrence Chatters. You're listening to The Law of Lift. You heard it. It's inspirational stories to lift you up. Regardless of how you're feeling on this wonderful Sunday, we are here to lift your spirits and bring you inspiration from people who have overcome adversity and found their way back to success. And I'll tell you what, the guest I have today is an incredibly inspirational person, and I am just so happy to have him in the studio today. He has an inspirational story in so many different ways and continues to inspire through the work that he does on a daily basis and lifts people up. He helps people get stronger in every sense. You know, when you get stronger physically, you get stronger mentally, right? And you have to be strong mentally to get stronger physically. And so this guy really embodies all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, The Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters, Mr. Coach Chet Fortune. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I appreciate being on the show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I always do on my show, Chet, is I give people their flowers. And so, you know, that's just about talking to the people who I invite onto the show about how they and why they inspire me. And what I can tell you is that from afar, and also as we've gotten the opportunity to get to know each other as friends, you inspire me. You have overcome significant odds. You are a strong person. You're strong in mind. You're strong in body. And the things that you've done over the course of your life have helped people better themselves. And I truly appreciate that. As a person who is a mental health professional who helps people work through challenges when they're experiencing significant clinical issues, I love to see people who come to work every day and just wake up with a mindset of helping other people get better. I think, of course, that lifts us up. I think that always gives me motivation when I'm supporting other people and they need support. It motivates me to get better. And I think from what I've seen from you and what you've been able to accomplish in your career and your life overall, you've just been an inspirational person. You've helped people move forward physically and mentally through what you do. And so I just have to give you your flowers, and we'll talk more about some substantial odds that you've overcome and been able to, you know, really put yourself back into a position to continue helping other people. And we'll talk about those on this show today. But I just want to tell you from the top of my show, I appreciate what you do. I think you're just an amazing person, and your story is inspirational. And you've inspired a lot of people that you have no idea who you've inspired through what you've overcome and what you've done over the course of your life. So thank you. First and foremost, there's your flowers early on in my show. How does that feel to hear all that?
Hey, I love it. I appreciate it. I appreciate, I think my, passion in life is really inspiring and motivating others and, seeking out change in people progressively. So, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be able to give you those flowers. And, on the Law of Lift, we are not afraid in this space to tell people how much they mean to us, because I think it's great to hear that, right? It's great to hear it. But at the same time, I know that that's not what you actually seek. You seek to support other folks in going through the challenges they're going through and help them through those things. And in doing that, you inspire other people. So I think, just wanted to let you know that. So the first question on my show, Chet, is, and this is a good one, I think, for you, because honestly, I just haven't run into the name Chet on many occasions. So please, can you tell me where that name came from? Like, how did you get the name Chet? Is it short for something? Like, tell me about that.
It's not short for Chester. First off the bat, let's get that straight.
Okay.
Jocelyn and Kenneth Fortune, my parents. That's where it came from. And,
Yes.
my mom, she had a cousin named Chester Fortune. I think he played some like Negro League baseball back in the day. And,
Okay.
my dad just kind of liked the name. He didn't like the name Chester though.
I see.
So yeah, I mean, Chet was what they came with, and growing up in America, it's a good name as a African American individual to put on a resume.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just was something that stuck with him. He liked it, and my parents rolled with it. So
That's awesome.
I haven't met that's one thing. Growing up, I didn't love my name,
Right.
but at the same time, I came to realize like it's a name that people don't tend to forget.
Yes.
The last name is solid. The first name, like it's growing on me. Like
Yeah.
I don't mind it anymore.
That's another question I usually ask people is just like, what did you think about it growing up? And I can imagine as a young kid, Chet, people are probably like, they'd never really heard it before. It's unique, right? So they're
Right.
probably whatever. But as you've gotten older and made it essentially your brand, Coach Chet Fortune, right? Like, I think it's probably grown on you that it means something, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's stuck. It's just one of those names that when you introduce yourself, like especially with some of the background and industries that I deal with,
Yes.
it's just a name that they don't hear often.
Right.
The first thing that comes to mind is Weird Science,
Yeah.
but other than that, like it's
Yeah.
like I said, it's a name they don't forget. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's Coach Chet, my brand. Like
Yes.
it's just something that's just easy for the mouth. Like it just comes out, rolls off the tongue real easy. And like I said, now at this point in my life, I kind of like it. It's not
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. It's good to hear that. So take us back to where, it all began. We usually talk about the beginning part of a person's life and just how that shapes their overall perspective. So talk to us about where you were born and just kind of those early years for you.
So I've got a military background, grew up in Bellevue, Nebraska,
Yeah.
the majority of my life. And, like a lot of people that end up in Bellevue, it's retirement,
That's right.
off it.
Yes.
You don't get off it.
You don't get off
it's-
it. That's
so
right.
a lot of families, look at it as a good place to raise kids. But I was born in Madrid.
Oh, really?
Madrid, Spain.
Oh
Yeah.
my
So
goodness.
first
Okay.
3 years of my life were there. The only thing
Wow.
I really remember from Spain is the playground
Yeah.
outside of our house. And we moved to Maine. From there was in Loring, Maine for a while,
Uh-huh.
and then we ended up on Offutt and Bellevue. And I
Okay.
grew up in Bellevue since 1989. So
Okay.
it's the majority of what I can remember of my life is homegrown in Bellevue.
Okay. Wow. So born in Madrid, Spain.
Right.
Okay. Okay. And so when you think about just kind of the early years, you can't really remember too much from Madrid, but Maine, I have not heard of many people who were stationed in Maine. So that's unique. So how
Yeah.
long were you there in Maine?
We were in Maine for about 3-4 years, three
Okay.
and a half years, something like that.
So probably the early part of your elementary school for the most part.
we're just getting started. And like the things that I remember, obviously lobster.
Yes.
We had a lot of seafood. Seafood is extremely fresh on the East Coast. You're right by
Absolutely.
the water, and lobsters being lobsters are Maine or where they come from, and
Right.
ideally they're the best there. So
Yeah.
like Maine, one thing I do remember is the snow. Like we get a
Yeah.
lot of snow in Omaha,
Right.
and in Nebraska. We get all 4 seasons. Where I think that's a luxury.
Yes.
To be able to experience all 4 seasons. But Maine, the snow, like in base housing where we lived,
Hmm.
the second floor had like these like lifts that you can like walk out on from your window from the bedroom.
Yeah.
And I remember, there'd be some snowstorms that you'd walk out on that, little balcony,
Yeah.
and that's how you got outside, because your door, the front door
Could be snowed over.
could be snowed over.
Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness.
You'd have, feet's worth of snow, some snowstorms, and
Yeah.
cars would be covered. And
Oh my goodness.
it's crazy to think that like that didn't necessarily close down schools. Like those
Right.
systems are
Yeah.
just built for that. But I do remember the snow. I remember the fall, and like the leaves and the colors, and the landscape of Maine was like it was great.
Yeah.
It's just-
Beautiful, like a
yeah.
mixture of green and
You
the
get all
fall
the
is
colors,
beautiful. Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
colors, and pretty fairly cool, summers. Like I just remember, like over the summer, the spring, it was just, and fall, just a great time to be outside.
Yeah.
The winters, like I said, you could get a lot of snow, so that
Yeah.
was kind of key. So coming to Nebraska, it was a relief because obviously I'm not, I'm not a big skier or,
Yeah.
and that's kind of, that, atmosphere out there is everybody's in ski mode and wanting to, get out in the slopes and,
Yep.
travel and, hike and, it's not necessarily, my background. Like,
Right.
so I'm not super outdoorsy. I can't say I am, like
Okay.
I love being outside. I love taking hikes every once in a while, but
Right.
it just, Nebraska was a better fit for me.
That's amazing. So you get here around 89 and, first of all, when you think about the first part of your life, what exactly do you recall kind of being your viewpoint of being a military kid and having, parent or parents? Was it just one parent in the military?
Yeah, my dad was
so
in the
just
Air
your dad.
Force, yeah.
So what was that like for you growing up? Because I kind of know what it was like for me just moving around and not necessarily feeling like, because my dad is originally from Georgia. Where's your dad originally from?
Delaware.
Delaware,
Wilmington, yeah.
Okay, so being in Maine, you all weren't necessarily terribly far from where he grew up, right?
No.
But what was that like for you being a military kid?
I mean, you just got used to, meeting a lot of new friends, that was, I didn't take it as a disappointment, at
Yeah.
that age, just because you were so young,
Yeah.
I can hardly think anybody listening to, this station at this time, remembers friends from kindergarten or,
Right.
so at that age, I feel like I was pretty outgoing, pretty extrovert. So
Yeah.
I didn't mind meeting new kids and, trying new things. I played a bunch of sports. So,
Okay.
that gave me the environment that I needed to meet new people outside the classroom. And,
Gotcha.
at this age, I look at it as a blessing, I was
Yes.
able to travel around, see a lot of different places and,
Yep.
it diversified me. So I think
Yeah.
it was a good thing.
Yeah, it definitely shifts your worldview to grow up in places that aren't necessarily culturally exactly kind of what standard American experience is.
Right.
And to have been in those spaces so that you could move to Maine and then tell the kids, as they kind of ask questions and you're growing up and people are always trying to figure out where you're from, what your perspective is. Oh, I was born in Spain. They're
Right.
like, what?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
in Maine, there's not a lot of people born in Spain. So, it just makes you unique. And I think just having a family that isn't afraid to travel is actually called to travel through the military and everything else. So you get to Nebraska. What was Nebraska like from your perspective, like to be here and actually be settled? Because it seems like when your parents got here, is this where you all chose to retire? Is this where your dad retired?
Yeah, my dad, he didn't retire as soon as he got back. He just knew, this
Yeah.
is where he wanted to raise his kids, his
Gotcha.
two sons. I got one older brother.
Yeah.
And the military background, very strict, organized.
Yes.
That was one thing I could take away from, my father, he did TDYs, he'd be gone at times. And, my mom, she worked full time, but, it was kind of the same, path and structure that,
Mhm.
my dad had in place, that some of the things he took from the military, like one thing that, people will laugh at sometimes is when I eat quick.
Yeah.
And, I think that was that military background that,
Gotcha.
You're in the military, you're in the service, you're doing, boot camp or whatever. And, you're kind of, you got so much time to eat. You better get it all done. You better not waste a thing.
Right. That's interesting. Those things that really do carry over from the military, and just watching our parents growing up and seeing some of those habits that they have, and I can just recall a certain sense of anxiety sometimes around my dad, right? And it's just, I don't know if it's an inherent anxiety as much as it's just the expectation is high of you,
Sure.
right? Like as a child. And so for me, it was always having to be squared away from an image perspective. And so like my dad expected all of the kids to have, like, we had to be dressed up, right? Like you couldn't leave the house with your shirt untucked. Like you had to look presentable, and
Yeah.
that was just the thing. It was like, when you walked outside of that house, you represented your family to an extent. And my dad, was always like, hey, you gotta be squared away in that regard from a appearance perspective. So that's interesting. You mentioned the eating piece as well. And so, when you think about those early years, getting to Bellevue and just kind of, finding your friend group and different things like that, what was that like for you to be here, to kind of start to settle in a little bit more, find your niche? You probably continue to play sports, right? Because you've
Mhm.
always been an athletic person. So what were some of those things that really started to develop for you here in Nebraska, as far as you think about later on in life, the choices that you made from a career perspective? What were some of those things that were growing at that time?
At that age, I thought I was going to the NFL. I loved football. I
Yeah.
was fast. I came from a track like my whole family ran track.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like and then we're competitive, even in the household, it was competitive.
Right.
We played sports and did stuff together, and it was always a competition. And,
Yeah.
For me, like when I was in early grade school, like that was my focus. It was just every day when I woke up, like what steps could I take
Yep.
to make the NFL? I'm going to the NFL. I was a highlight in Pop Warner,
Yes.
I'd go to track and we'd run track all over, regionals, nationals,
Yep.
and I competed at a high level. So, like at that age,
Right.
I can't say in grade school, I knew I wanted to run businesses and, be sales background, finance background, or any of the things that I ended up doing.
Yes.
I just knew like it was a mode to get to where, like I had to go to school, wanted to get to college, play college a couple of years and then go to the NFL. With that said, like my parents' expectations of school were high. So like, like I was a kid who, I didn't study much, but pretty much straight A's all through high school, got my bachelor's, didn't have to overstudy. I feel like I did well under pressure, like I studied and I'd procrastinate, wait till last minute.
Yep.
But, I had straight A's, even with my bachelor's degree going into my master's. And
that's awesome.
Just never struggled with it. But I knew it was an expectation to keep my grades where they needed to be, to have no questions, to do the things that I wanted to do outside of the classroom, like play sports.
Right. So tell us a little bit more about just kind of, when you were going into high school, and we just kind of think back, and you went to Bellevue West, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So you went to Bellevue West. What sports did you play in high school, and how did that really continue this kind of concept of the discipline that was continuing to develop for you over the years? Because I know that discipline is really like a core concept. What sports did you play in high school?
Football freshman year, and then I did track through my junior year.
Okay.
And I look back at those times. I remember, getting to high school, and I'm short now, like I'm acceptable now, like 5'9" acceptable. But I was like extremely short in high school.
Yeah.
And, like my whole life, like I excelled. I was I was in the newspapers, and, like even in Pop Warner, like, there was people talking about me. I had scouts coming to games, like in 8th grade. And, so when I got to high school, and I, this is one thing I kind of regret, because I know my mindset's not set in that way. I'm on the B team, and,
Gotcha.
like I'm behind, another individual that played with me, growing up my whole life. He was always a backup of mine.
Gotcha.
He had his growth spurts, so he had size.
Yeah.
He was fast, but I was faster. I was better. We got to the first game, and, B team came in, second half, and I put up big numbers, and I'm like, okay, like I've been outshining them all week.
Right.
The coaches will see it, next game, same thing. Next game came around, still B team assigned.
Right.
And, did the same thing, went out there, shined. And, from that game after practice, same thing, like I outworked them all week. We got to that third game, and, he was like, you're going to go out with the B team. And I'm like, you know what? After this game, I'm done. I'm just going to run track. Track. I can, it's just me. It's not accountable, like how I perform is all about me. And I think that changed my mindset in a way that is not normal for how I am now. Cause I'm not known to quit. I'm a fighter,
That's right. Yes.
And, you fight, so I wish I could have went back and like really, taking that spot one way or another, put in whatever type of work to really get the backing from, my coaches. So it's not something that I, like coach others with now. Never give up.
Yeah.
But, like track, I was shining, and, it got to about junior year, and then I started, liking to make money. So, like I started working, and
things shifted. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and, my focus changed. So like now with the athletes that I work with, and how I, attacked every practice and every training session that we had growing up, like it didn't matter, like if it was practice, football practice or track, and they said take a lap around the track first thing, just a warm up.
Right.
For whatever reason, I had to be in front.
Gotcha.
And I treated practice like, like I had to shine at every moment that, like I touched the ball or I got on the track, like I had to shine and be that star at all times, and I think, like I said, things shifted my junior year when, I'm starting to work, make a little money, buy stuff, got my first car.
Right.
And, then, things shifted, and, like if I could go back and do some of those things again, I would, but
Mhm.
you know, like it molded who I am today. And a
Yeah.
lot of those other things that, you know, we'll talk about, you know,
Yeah.
moving forward, like,
Yeah.
you know, kind of made who I am today. So
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
it's neat to hear that story because, again, and this is one of the things that I really highlight on the Law of Lift for people. You know, people see people who are incredibly successful. They see where they've gotten and what they've done, and they think that it's always been that way, that they've always just been locked in. And I hear what you're saying here is that being on that B team just wasn't enough for you. You really wanted to be the one who was able to shine back during that time. And that's really, I mean, that's a long time ago, right? But what I want to tell my listeners is that you do sometimes have to learn how to be a good follower before you can be a leader. And I think that being a good follower, in a sense, is putting in the time, putting in the effort, paying your dues essentially to get to the point where you've earned the respect and also earned the opportunity from the people who have that opportunity to give. Now, that is on their time, not necessarily your time. And sometimes I think our time that we have is a lot more brief than the time that other people have, right? They really need us to prove ourselves. And I think sometimes when that takes a little bit too long, sometimes we quit. Sometimes we move forward and we just say, forget about that. But what I hear you saying so many years later is that, you know, that could have possibly, because of all the rest of the things that you've done over the course of your life and the commitment that you put into track and everything else and how good you were, if you had waited a little bit longer, maybe your chance would have come, right?
I mean, I look back at, you know, the story Michael Jordan tells, you know, all the time, you know, about making it his being kind of that star, that leader, you know, like that
Yes.
great. And then he gets to high school, you
Yep.
know, and he doesn't start, you know,
That's
for
right.
varsity. Like,
That's
you know,
right.
but, you know, then, you know, years later, because he just had that mindset, he was going to be the greatest.
Right.
You know, he's inviting, you know, that coach to his Hall of Fame speech.
Yes.
You know, I'm not saying, you know, like blasting him out, making him feel bad is, you know, like ideal or something I would have wanted to do.
Right.
But, you know, he became the greatest of all time, and it's because he didn't quit.
That's right.
Had he quit and, you know,
Yep.
went and started working and liked something else, you know,
Yeah.
he wouldn't be the Air Jordan that we know today. So,
That's
you know,
so
like
true.
you see other people's stories and, you know I've got that work ethic
Yes.
that, you know, like no matter what you put in the time and the effort, it's gonna happen. You manifest it,
Yes.
you put in the work. And, you know, like I didn't have it in that moment, you know,
Right.
but like I said, ultimately I don't regret it because, you know, I've done a lot of other special things
Yes.
because of some other paths that I've taken. So
Yeah, of course, of course. And so it's just amazing to hear those stories from people who are exceptional because, again, sometimes we look back in our life and we say, gosh, you know, at that point in time in my life, this is what I was feeling. That's what I was experiencing. I made this decision. You can't go back and change that decision, but it had an impact on you. So it's just good to hear about that from you because, folks, as you'll hear, Chet has done some amazing things and really coach some amazing people. And it takes an amazing person to coach amazing people. And so it's just wonderful to hear the beginnings of this story. So you get to that junior year, you've been doing track. You decide that you're going to forego track. It sounds like the senior year because now you're on to something else, right? You're
Right.
like, yay, it's about money. It's about, you know, starting to create really your ascension. And it sounds like you did go on to college still. And again, it was going to possibly be football to go to college or track to go to college. When did that shift for you and not necessarily become what was going to take you on to college?
you know, I think growing up in the military family, like you knew that,
Yep.
you know, there was funding available. So like, you know, like once I knew that, okay, I can go to school and I
Right.
don't have to have a scholarship,
Yes.
you know, for it to be paid for, you know,
Right.
that was when the transition was just like, you know, like, man, like I really like money. I got into DECA
Yes.
junior year too.
Yes.
So DECA, you know, marketing, presentation,
Yep.
public speaking type environment.
Right.
And, you know, like I excelled at that, was never, you know, scared to talk in front of a bunch of people. I always felt comfortable,
Yep.
you know, like whether it being on a mic, you know, on a radio station or in front of, you know, hundreds of people, you know, sitting in an auditorium.
Right.
And then business, you know, like I
Yeah.
really started picking up on, you know, like being an entrepreneur, you know, and really creating your own lane. So I mean, that
Yeah.
became an interest. And
Yeah.
I knew within, you know, corporate world and, you know, like running businesses, part of that's experience,
Yes.
you know, like, you know, getting in some of these jobs just to gauge, you know, what it's like, and then also, you know, pick up that experience along the way. So I think, you know, that junior year, and one of the reasons why I stepped away from track was because I could see that shift. Like I knew when I was going to practice,
Right.
I didn't care as much.
I
Like, you know, like,
see. Yeah.
man, now it's like a job. Like, I don't really feel like putting in this work.
Right.
This is, you know, like tiring. I'm showing up to track meets and and taking second, third, fourth place, like, you know, and part of that was, you know, my work ethic at the practice, at those training sessions had changed. I always wanted to outwork everybody. And now it got to a point where, you know, it's not a priority of mine. Like, you know, I didn't see myself, you know, trying to run Olympic track or, you know, like making a career out of it. It was just going to be a mode that, you know, got me through schooling and, you know, like paid for school. And then from there, I could figure out what my passion was in the business world and, you know, kind of attack that, you know, so that's, the shift happened, you know, because I saw my work ethic was changing and I was just like, you know, if I'm not willing to put 110%, then, you know, this isn't for me. And it's not going to be the avenue that, you know, pays for school. So, you know, why am I doing it? I could have more work. I could be working more.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, well, you know, it's been really great to hear a little bit about the foundational components of what makes you who you are, the discipline, all these different things conceptually, how your worldview was shaped early on, being a military kid and everything else, and just how you can think back to how intentionally you made some different decisions and went in different directions. And folks, you're listening to Coach Chet Fortune. And we are going to continue hearing from him after we get back from this break. You're listening to The Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters on 93.7 The Ticket.
Harvest season is coming, and Acres has discounted many of our late model John Deere combines. Get thousands in discounts and upgrade for this year's harvest. Plus, you could save even more with interest rates starting as low as 1.9% on select units. Low interest rates combined with our huge discounts, there's not a better time to buy. Visit acres.com for all the details. That's AKRS.com. Restrictions apply. Offer ends August 31st, 2025. Subject to approved financing. Offer may change anytime without notice.
Hey fans, there's more winning at Amigos with the VIP Game Day giveaway. Every app scan is your chance to win premium tickets to a Nebraska football, basketball, and volleyball game, along with exclusive game day perks. And when Nebraska goes to a bowl, the winner also gets 2 tickets, lodging, and airfare to the bowl game. Weekly semifinalists will win free food for a year. Go Big Red. Eat at Amigos and enter to win.
Amigos is celebrating 45 years with exclusive Nebraska Legends collectible cups featuring Tom Osborne, John Cook, and some of your favorite Huskers. For every cup sold, 50 cents goes to teammates. Show your Big Red pride by getting all 4 of these collectible cups at Amigos.
This is Tom Osborne with the Teammates Mentoring Program. We have students on the waiting list for a mentor, and we want you to join the team. Learn more about mentoring and support teammates by visiting Amigos.
An overdose can happen in front of you and you might not realize it. Blue lips, slowed breathing, pinpoint pupils, choking sounds, unresponsive to touch or sounds. These signs aren't always obvious, but they can be deadly. Knowing what to do could save your friend, your neighbor, your child. Learn more by visiting myhealthymind.crediblemmind.com so you can be ready before it happens. This message is funded in part by the CDC OD2A grant.
This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at pahlincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, their passion for happier, healthier, furry friends.
Limitless Male says, it's all fun and games until your testosterone plummets. Testosterone levels can start falling as early as age 30 with symptoms like no energy, poor sleep, brain fog, belly fat, muscle loss, and mood swings. If this sounds familiar, get your testosterone checked at Limitless Male. We'll get you back in the game with more strength, energy, and confidence. When you feel this good, you'll wonder why you waited so long to get a free consult at Limitless Male. Get scheduled today.
I'm Karen Carr. I've been a realtor for 31 years. When I made a company change 12 years ago, I chose Lincoln First Realty, now NP Dodge. It's the oldest independently owned realty company in the country. Since becoming NP Dodge, we've continued our tradition of community involvement. Our management and staff are always available to offer support in marketing, technology, social media, and educational opportunities.
Expand your career with NP Dodge. Call Eric at 402-434-2222.
Are you looking to upgrade or improve the garage door on your home? This is Cameron Hall of Doors Plus. At Doors Plus, we guarantee to offer a wide selection of options from 5 leading garage door manufacturers as we deliver a free estimate, exact measurements, and rapid installation with a 3 to 5 week time frame. When you choose Doors Plus for your residential garage door needs, you'll work with our experienced technicians and be ensured that your new door seamlessly complements your home. Give us a call at 402-590-5800 or visit us online at DoorsPlusLLC.com. Doors Plus, garage doors, and more.
What's better than supporting your favorite radio station and eating delicious Nebraska-made products? Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska wants to highlight you, the listener, on the 93.7 The Ticket Wall of Fame at the store. Stop by the store at 48th and R in Lincoln and see their huge variety of small batch gourmet jerky. Or if you're not in the area and want to try some, go to SmokingGunJerky.com and enter code EARLY for 10% off your purchase. It's the ultimate low-calorie, high-protein snack at Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Now back to the Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Lincoln, Nebraska, we are back in the studio live. I have Coach Chet Fortune in the studio with me today. This guy is just, he has an extraordinary story. He's lifted and helped lift people to extraordinary heights, and he's done amazing things over the course of his life. But right now, we are talking about the early point in his life where, honestly, for a lot of us, we have questions about what we want to do and how we're going to get there. And there's zigs and zags in life. And so we're just talking through that right now. Born in Madrid, Spain. This is the first time I actually heard about that. So, but, if you're an Air Force brat like both of us are, sometimes, your life takes you to different foreign countries and, it's just a part of your story. It's a part of who you are. But this guy also went through Maine. And I just don't know a lot of people from Maine, that's just such a unique thing. And he talked about how that had an impact on him. Very poignant component of that for me is just him having some sense of identity from growing up in the northeastern part of the country. Dad is from Delaware. So again, that northeasterner kind of concept, moving to Bellevue right around 1989 and then taking on his elementary school, middle school, high school, playing some football, getting involved in track. Didn't quite hit that growth spurt that freshman year. I can relate, man. I was super short freshman year. I had no idea how tall I was going to get, but I was just small. As a matter of fact, I always tell people, I wrestled at 133 my junior year, 133 pounds as a junior in high school. That's just crazy, right? And by the way, I didn't walk around at 133. I walked around more at like 140, but it was kind of like, I can't believe I actually weighed that little bit at some point in my life because now it's not the same. And, but anyways, Chet has really shared with us so far just how committed he was to his craft and everything that he was doing back then. Very smart young man, didn't necessarily have to study a lot, but still got extremely good grades, excelled. And he talked about the importance of how much of an expectation that was in the household. Like family, parents, they expected that, right? Like, especially I think when you grow up with military parents, it's like, you better be excellent. You represent me. You see me. I'm here. I'm disciplined. I wake up. I put a uniform on every day. I go and represent this country, and you represent me. You better be doing well. And I think there's a lot of that expectation when you grow up in a military family. And so we're hearing some of the foundational components of who Chet would become now, folks. And, we're also hearing his thought process about, what? I'm not necessarily feeling this as much anymore. And I'm going to do something different. And so far, where we are currently is that he's gotten to his junior year. As far as track was concerned, he continued in track. He decided to walk away from football, but he continued in track, was excellent in that. And then he starts learning about this concept that I think all of us get introduced to at some point in our life, business, right? Business, this idea that as a result of your work and your time and your effort and who you are as a person and your ingenuity and your ideation, you can make money, right? There's this cool concept. Like, I think when you realize that and you're like, wait a minute, I can come up with an idea and other people are going to buy that. They're going to actually hand me money because I came up with this idea. So he's in DECA. I would imagine, he's successful in that, doing a lot of presentations and everything else, and then goes to college and has the opportunity to go to college, I would believe, with the GI Bill, perhaps.
Correct.
And so, that's amazing. Shout out to our parents who served, who allow us to be able to take part in that. It's amazing. You get to college, you start out at UNO, and you're majoring in business.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about that. So you graduated from high school, you're in college now, you're pursuing this concept that you can go out and do something special. How do you continue to develop over that process?
At that time, I still didn't know, where life was going to take me. So, I graduated a week later. After graduation, I was moved out to an apartment,
Okay.
So, like, I was
pretty
ready.
quick. You're ready to go.
I was ready to, a lot of rules at home, being in a military family.
There are, yes.
All the chores, all the, like, just because you work, doesn't mean, like, you don't have stuff to do. Just because you got money to, buy your own dinner before you get home, and you might not eat dinner.
Right.
The dishes are still yours.
That's right.
And so like that, I just wanted to just get out, see my own way. So had a good job at the time. So I was working for JCPenney during high school.
Okay.
My last 2 years, in the men's department, and, like that obviously didn't pay well, but it taught me how to speak to people, how to sell, how to upsell, how to, just communicate, just with the public, and how important customer service was. And my senior year, upon graduating, I joined an organization called Inroads.
Yes.
And,
yes, that's right.
If
Inroads.
anybody's been a part of the Inroads program, like a wonderful program.
It is.
And, for minority students, but they had a internship for the first time with Pfizer Pharmaceuticals.
Wow.
So Pfizer, was brand new to them, and they didn't really know what they wanted to do, how they would do it, but they treated us like regular pharmaceutical representatives.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
Graduating high school, going into the summer, I went straight to New York for about a month and a half.
Wow.
Flew out to their resort. Arnold Palmer, was golfing on their resort every morning. And,
oh my goodness.
The education, the testing that it takes to become a pharmaceutical rep.
Yeah.
If you're not getting a 92%, 91% or something like that on every single quiz each week, you were sent home. So,
I see.
like, it was, you're learning about the body, you're learning about the drug,
right?
And the division that I became a part of,
right,
was the top. It was like the top division at Pfizer at the time. So all 4 of the drugs that I had, that I was assigned to, were all billion-dollar drugs. I'm talking Viagra when Viagra didn't have a competitor.
Oh my goodness.
Zyrtec when Allegra was, barely becoming a competitor.
Right.
Norvasc, which was the biggest blood pressure medication that was known to man, and then Lipitor, so cholesterol.
Wow, cholesterol drug. Wow.
So like my drugs were powerful. I had this great training. I get back, and they paid me like a pharmaceutical rep. They gave me a corporate car, corporate cell phone, laptop. Everything was paid for, so like I'm going into my freshman year making great money.
Oh my goodness.
And that kind of led me to some different things, which I'm sure we'll touch base on. But
right.
I had a great job, and education was just, like I said, I wasn't having to study hard. So, like that kind of molded into, this could be a career, had I stayed at Pfizer, and I'm 42 now, I'd be retiring right now.
For sure.
So,
absolutely.
So
with just the different drugs that you just mentioned there, each one of those would go on and become, again, this is probably early on in the competition, but those are multi-billion-dollar, right? Like Pfizer is one of the biggest to do it at this point. And so that's amazing to hear that you were on the front end of that through Inroads.
Right.
That is amazing that you had that opportunity. And these internship opportunities, these programs that really allow people the experience to be in those spaces, because I couldn't imagine what it was like for you to be in some of those corporate spaces where there's such high dollar people and high dollar opportunities, and get the opportunity to learn. So yeah, so that's great. So you get back to Nebraska, you've kind of had a taste of that corporate life, right?
Yeah.
And you've had the opportunity to kind of make some money and stuff like that. Talk us through what happens next.
So, they allowed me to, go to school full time and, like work, because some of those inroads internships are only during the summer.
Right.
Some of them are, a year long. Most of them are paid. Some of them are not. But that one, I was able to get in some offices that, they had some trouble, and it was just, if anybody that's done pharmaceuticals, it's all relationship.
It
if
is.
you got a relationship with the physician,
Yeah.
they're going to probably prescribe more of your company's drugs, And so like there was a couple of offices that, we weren't able to get much time with the doctors, but I didn't go in like I knew, everything. I didn't, hey, here's this new case study we did. It was more so just getting to know the doctor, and I looked different than, anybody that was walking through their doors, like especially my territory was all the way to Aberdeen, South Dakota, all the way
Gotcha.
almost to Kansas City,
Okay.
to Des Moines, and then as far west as Grand Island, so like some of these places that I walk in, I might be the only Black person that they've seen in weeks in the whole city,
Right,
let alone 18, 19 years old,
Yes.
like, so like they'd give me time just because they're like, what are you doing in here?
Right.
And then I wasn't just, like right off the bat, just trying to sell them hard. It was, let me get some knowledge from you,
Right.
like, what are some reasons why you would prescribe this? And, what have you seen? And, like, what have you learned? What can I learn from you? They give me time, and it was never just about my drugs. And so, Pfizer allowed me to do that, that whole freshman year. And then
Wow.
from there, like it kind of came to a point where I was a little naive. Like I said, if I would have stayed, I had a career that I'm at the pinnacle of sales, when you're talking pharmaceutical sales.
Yeah.
So I was naive though. Like I knew I was a go-getter. I had some business experience and some entrepreneurial, like, a belief in myself,
Right.
and I started looking at, some opportunities in management.
Yep.
So, my girlfriend at the time was working at a collection agency.
Mhm.
They had a pretty good bonus structure, and I was like, you know what, I could, become a manager there and,
Yep.
make about the same money that I'm making now. Obviously collection agency, pharmaceutical company, I shouldn't have left, but I did,
Yeah.
like, and I got into management. I was one of their top producers, collectors, when I joined, and,
Mhm.
they wanted me to have the whole group do that. And then I had, about 60 collectors underneath me when I became a collections manager.
Wow.
And, that led me into, getting some management experience.
Yes.
Then from there, I was just like, yeah, I know I'm not going to be at a collection agency my whole life. It's not, something prestigious, and then getting people to pay something that, this is third party. So
Gotcha.
they're already, 180 days late. They already, in their mind, they're not paying it.
Right.
Like it just was, let me look for something else. So I started looking at banking, and
Yes.
some branch management banking opportunities, and
Uh-huh.
didn't have banking experience or finance degree or experience or, but I just knew that, I could talk to people.
Yeah.
And if I could get in front of somebody for an interview, which was US Bank,
Yes.
I'd get the job. So US Bank was, my first banking experience. And
Okay.
then I kind of hopped around to, a couple of different banks over the years, and, American National, Wells Fargo.
Mhm.
And, from there, like it got to a point where I was just like, even finance, like going after mortgages and reverse mortgages and, banking.
Yeah. Tell us what years this was, because I
Like-
think this will give people a little more
Yeah.
flavor to what was happening.
This
right?
is, so the banking that was, for about 2001 to 2008 ish.
Yes.
And, like if anybody knows about banking and,
Yes.
like it was just a wild west. back
that
then.
was a wild time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
a lot
people
of
are
lawsuits and
Yes.
and you saw, like as a branch manager, you saw some of these things that, it's not putting this person in the best position, it's giving them money now, but
Right.
it's going to hurt them on the back end.
Yep.
But, like you're only as good as your last month, in any sales atmosphere. Oh, you had a great month. You
Right.
got all these mortgages, but what are you going to do for us? What have you done for us this month?
That's right.
And that's all they cared about. So that's what got me to start in 2008 ish to start, considering other, endeavors. That's when I went back to, because I had walked away, from my degree. I was like, I'd rather just make money, spend my time. I don't need my degree for this.
Right.
Sales, you can sell, that's all that matters.
Yep.
Went back to Bellevue University to finish my degree.
Mhm.
And in the meantime, I was just like, you know what, I'm ready to start my own business.
Yeah.
I started looking at commercial cleaning services because a friend of mine, a mentor,
Yeah.
like that lived in the neighborhood, older Black guy that, always driving super nice cars and always wearing gator shoes.
Right,
and,
right.
He just was always clean. And
Right.
and I was like, man, you run a commercial business, and I knew I could, get some game and some knowledge from him. And, I bought an Astro van. I had 20s on my Astro van.
Oh my goodness.
But I did the logo. I did the
Right.
business card, I developed my own website. Like I did it all, I was
Yeah.
excited about it. And because of my sales background, I could get contracts.
Right.
But I hated cleaning up behind people, and I was trying to keep my organization small,
Yep.
not have to hire, a bunch of people. So I was doing a lot of work.
Right.
And, even though I'm finishing my degree, just in case it didn't work out, I wanted to go find another job.
Yes.
I'm working, tons of hours doing something I hated. And I was just like, you know what? Cleaning is not it.
Right.
That's when I went back into banking. I think that's when I went to American National, my last stop.
Gotcha.
And
gotcha. Okay.
at American National, it was the same thing. I was like, ultimately, corporate meeting after meeting and, meetings about meetings and,
Right.
sitting in, I just wanted to work. I wanted to get out there and, sell.
Yes.
And not, it just putting on a suit every day. This was not me, I want to. So it led me to figure out, okay, I want to run my own business.
Right.
But what am I passionate about?
Right. And we'll get right back
Yeah.
into that after
Yeah.
we get to this next break here. You're listening to Chet Fortune, Coach Chet Fortune, just talking about the beginnings. And we are so grateful to have him in the studio. We'll be right back after this on 93.7 The Ticket with the Law of Lift.
At Valentino's, we're on a mission for tradition. On every slice, for every bite. Golden baked crust, cooked to perfection every time. Savory sweet sauce that's made from our own secret recipe. Loaded with the perfect amount of fresh toppings and melty mozzarella cheese. It's the tradition that Nebraskans have come to love. From game day to every day. Valentino's. Taste the tradition.
Give your furnace a break with the help of Heartland of Nebraska Windows. Heartland of Nebraska Windows offers a free estimate, full window replacements, all vinyl triple pane windows, and a lifetime warranty of everything, while still keeping their prices affordable. Sounds too good to be true, right? Heartland of Nebraska Windows is locally and family owned with their own team of installers. Give the window experts at Heartland of Nebraska Windows a call today at 402-430-3852 or visit them online at heartlandofnebraskawindows.com. Elevate your home or business with the help of Heartland of Nebraska Windows today.
A1 Automotive's second location is now open at 5110 State Hill Drive, just off of Yankee Hill Road. The new location continues to specialize in all makes and models and provides personalized service as they have for 15 years. With the school year here, A1 Automotive reminds you that college students get 10% off any service, and they offer free tire repair with a valid college ID. Schedule your appointment today at a1autolincoln.com and visit their new location in South Lincoln at 5110 State Hill Drive or downtown at 11th and L.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? You need an attorney you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Call Liberty Law and find out how we can help you get the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. Call the trial attorneys you can trust. 877-42-LIBERTY.
Schweizo Construction is now hiring for skilled craftsmen, steel erectors, concrete workers, and general laborers. Schweizo Construction offers great benefits like premium wages, health and dental insurance, paid holidays and vacation, 401k with company match, life insurance, and disability insurance. They pride themselves on a legacy of 40 years built on integrity and trust. Joining their team means becoming part of a family that values hard work, dedication, and mutual respect. Apply today at schweizo.com. That's SCHWISOW.com.
Since 1983, Fast Mike's Roll-Offs has been a trusted and reliable company in Lincoln and the surrounding areas. Fast Mike's handles all sides of construction projects, home renovations, or big cleanouts. With the perfect size dumpster to fit your needs, Fast Mike's Roll-Offs will haul it all. With same-day delivery in Lincoln, affordable rates, and top-notch service, Fast Mike's Roll-Offs make cleanup quick and easy. Call now at 402-450-6828 or visit us online at fastmikesrolloffs.com. Book your dumpster today. Fast Mike's Roll-Offs, cleanup made simple.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills Global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
Breaking here at the news desk. When you stack Allo Internet, DirecTV, and mobile, you can lock in your price for 2 years. Sources are confirming that when you stack Allo Internet, DirecTV, and mobile, your monthly price drops and you're locked in for 2 years. That's fiber fast internet, premium streaming TV, and reliable nationwide mobile coverage. And this just in, you must switch by Labor Day to secure that locked-in pricing for 2 years. Switch, stack, and save at allofiber.com/stack.
Bring new life to metal treasures with Kaiser Blasting and Coatings. From railings and fences to outdoor furniture and unique antiques, their expert team removes years of rust and weathering, then finishes each piece with a lasting powder coat. Trusted by industries across the region, now local homeowners and businesses can experience the same professional care. Visit KaiserBlasting.com or call 402-421-3559 to request your quote. Restore, protect, and make your metal shine like never before with the help of Kaiser Blasting and Coatings.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Now back to the Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
That's right, Lincoln, Nebraska. We're back. It's the Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters. I have Coach Chet Fortune in here today, and he's really going through telling us about what really got him to the point where he was ready to just go out on his own and do his own thing. And what I think is so amazing about that, and just hearing about people's backgrounds, is that all these pieces fit together like it's a puzzle, right? And so as you think about your own background and what really makes you who you are and has led you to the decisions that you've made over the course of your life, I just want you to think about how the pieces fit together. And, honestly, as a mental health professional, that's what I really like to help people do, is just kind of figure out why the pieces fit together the way that they do, because there's just these different unique experiences that we have. And from this last segment, what really stuck out to me is Chet just really talking about how he had to make some intentional decisions about the professional things that he was doing in his life, whether it be, being in the pharmaceutical industry, seeing how that whole thing worked and kind of choosing to move on from that, being in the banking industry, understanding that, folks, he was in the banking industry between 2001 and 2008. You know what happened in 2008? There was a significant downturn in the economy, a bubble that burst, and the rest is history, as they say. And, he was in that that period of time when things at banks were, just absolutely exploding, and lots of mortgages, lots of different accounts being opened, stuff like that. Right. And so, he gets through all of that and decides, man, maybe I need to go back and finish my education up. And there's Bellevue University, enter the picture there, and, has the opportunity to finish his degree, get an undergraduate degree in business and business administration. And then tell us about 2012. That's a really special year for you. Something really big happened. You kind of shifted and went into a new industry. And I keep hearing this reinvention of yourself, but the same foundational discipline behind the scenes that's driving you. So what happened in 2012?
So 2012, I finished up my degree, and from there, I was just like, I want to take this into my own business. I'm ready to look for something that's within my passion.
Yeah.
Like I said, the janitorial service was successful as far as contracts, but working within that passion and purpose was important. And something that never left me from high school was going to the gym. I always went to the gym.
Yeah.
I'd have people follow me to the gym, and it was something that I enjoyed being at the gym every single day. I hated missing it, and I was like, this has got to be my passion. It's something that I love to do and would do for free. And so, I started looking for space. I didn't want to work for any of the gyms that I went to. I didn't want to look like their trainers. I didn't want to, do it the global way. And, I just looked for space. I found some space. And then, one day I just walked into my boss's office once I'd signed the lease and said, hey, I'm opening this gym in 2 weeks. And, this is my notice. It was
Wow.
it was after a meeting. Like I went with a smile on my face because
Yeah.
I said I got tired of the meetings, and it was right after a meeting.
Mhm.
That hey, we're doing this.
And this is from the bank, right? That you were
American National.
moving on.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. So what were you thinking at that time that you're about to start your own business and walk away from the bank? Had you been saving? Like, did you have some backers? Like, how did you do that?
Man, no.
He said no.
I had decent credit at the time. So,
Right.
like I was able to get a commercial lease signed off. And,
Yeah.
I knew that I just had, manifested it, and I was like, this is how I'm going to do it. And,
Yeah.
I've already got people following me and, like asking me what I do and wanting to train with me. And, like, as long as I've got that belief and put the work that it takes, going back to, football practice.
Yes.
You work harder than everybody else.
Right.
You succeed. So I had that same business mindset that,
Yes.
I'm going to put whatever type of work it takes to be one of the top gyms in the state.
Wow.
And, that's open doors 2 weeks later and struggled for a while. But
Yeah.
I mean, we ended up doing some special things with it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, 2012, he walks away from a bank, walks away from an opportunity there, and starts his own gym. And it was really kind of the beginning of where we get to today. We haven't really talked too much about this, but Chet and his capabilities to motivate people and help people transform themselves has been incredibly important in his profession, and he's been doing this at a very high level. And this is honestly 13 years ago again, right, that this thing starts. But just recently was is the head. Tell him about who one of your most famous clients is right now that we'll get to talking to a little bit more, but we'll kind of talk about on the back end of this.
So we just got done with the Canelo fight, but yeah, strength conditioning coach for Terrence, 2014 off and on. There's been some camps I haven't been a part of, but
right.
Yeah, I mean, Terrence is by far my biggest athlete.
Yeah. So this in who you're talking to today was the trainer for this most recent fight between Bud Crawford and Canelo. And, as you can see, this last bout, this fight, there was a significant amount of change that had to happen for Bud Crawford. And this man right here sitting in the studio today with me was the one who helped see him through that process. And so, we have more of that to come this next hour. We'll really jump into that. But you've been listening to The Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters. I have Coach Chet Fortune in the studio with me today, talking to me about just getting the gym open in 2012. So much more to come right after this on 93.7 The Ticket. We'll be back.
Harvest season is coming, and Acres has discounted many of our late model John Deere combines. Get thousands in discounts and upgrade for this year's harvest. Plus, you could save even more with interest rates starting as low as 1.9% on select units. Low interest rates combined with our huge discounts, there's not a better time to buy. Visit acres.com for all the details. That's AKRS.com. Restrictions apply. Offer ends August 31st, 2025. Subject to approved financing. Offer may change at any time without notice.
Hey fans, there's more winning at Amigos with the VIP Game Day giveaway. Every app scan is your chance to win premium tickets to a Nebraska football, basketball, and volleyball game, along with exclusive game day perks. And when Nebraska goes to a bowl, the winner also gets 2 tickets, lodging, and airfare to the bowl game. Weekly semifinalists will win free food for a year. Go Big Red. Eat at Amigos and enter to win.
Amigos is celebrating 45 years with exclusive Nebraska Legends collectible cups featuring Tom Osborne, John Cook, and some of your favorite Huskers. For every cup sold, 50 cents goes to teammates. Show your Big Red pride by getting all 4 of these collectible cups at Amigos.
This is Tom Osborne with the Teammates Mentoring Program. We have students on the waiting list for a mentor, and we want you to join the team. Learn more about mentoring and support teammates by visiting Amigos.
An overdose can happen in front of you and you might not realize it. Blue lips, slowed breathing, pinpoint pupils, choking sounds, unresponsive to touch or sounds. These signs aren't always obvious, but they can be deadly. Knowing what to do could save your friend, your neighbor, your child. Learn more by visiting myhealthymind.crediblemmind.com so you can be ready before it happens. This message is funded in part by the CDC OD2A grant.
This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at pahlincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, their passion for happier, healthier, furry friends.
Limitless Male says it's all fun and games until your testosterone plummets. Testosterone levels can start falling as early as age 30 with symptoms like no energy, poor sleep, brain fog, belly fat, muscle loss, and mood swings. If this sounds familiar, get your testosterone checked at Limitless Male. We'll get you back in the game with more strength, energy, and confidence. When you feel this good, you'll wonder why you waited so long to get a free consult at Limitless Male. Get scheduled today.
I'm Karen Carr. I've been a realtor for 31 years. When I made a company change 12 years ago, I chose Lincoln First Realty, now NP Dodge. It's the oldest independently owned realty company in the country. Since becoming NP Dodge, we've continued our tradition of community involvement. Our management and staff are always available to offer support in marketing, technology, social media, and educational opportunities.
Expand your career with NP Dodge. Call Eric at 402-434-2222.
Are you looking to upgrade or improve the garage door on your home? This is Cameron Hall of Doors Plus. At Doors Plus, we guarantee to offer a wide selection of options from 5 leading garage door manufacturers as we deliver a free estimate, exact measurements, and rapid installation with a 3 to 5 week time frame. When you choose Doors Plus for your residential garage door needs, you'll work with our experienced technicians and be ensured that your new door seamlessly complements your home. Give us a call at 402-590-5800 or visit us online at DoorsPlusLLC.com. Doors Plus, garage doors, and more.
What's better than supporting your favorite radio station and eating delicious Nebraska-made products? Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska wants to highlight you, the listener, on the 93.7 The Ticket Wall of Fame at the store. Stop by the store at 48th and R in Lincoln and see their huge variety of small batch gourmet jerky. Or if you're not in the area and want to try some, go to SmokingGunJerky.com and enter code EARLY for 10% off your purchase. It's the ultimate low-calorie, high-protein snack at Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust, member FDIC.
Now back to the Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
That's right, Lincoln, Nebraska. We're back. You're listening to the Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters. I have Coach Chet Fortune in the studio with me today. One of the things that over the course of the last couple of months that has just brought me so much joy and happiness is watching Terrence Bud Crawford on the highest stage at the highest level be successful. And you know, you kind of wonder, you know, when you see somebody be so successful, like what's happening behind the scenes. And, you know, certainly you applaud their effort like you wouldn't believe. And you know that they represent the state and all the people that they, you know, represent. And Chet was behind the scenes. And it's just been so neat to watch his development, his progression, and understand just how important, you know, his mindset and everything that he's done over the course of his life and his follow through and his resilience, how much that has motivated people around him. And I talked to him about that at the top of the show when we first started, just giving him his flowers essentially. But he's definitely someone who's motivated me and inspired me. And so when I asked him to be on my show today, you know, honestly, I asked him a few months back, like when I first figured out that I was going to be doing my show. And then he informed me, he said, well, I'm going to be busy, you know, because I'm about to go into this camp. And I mean, you know, I'm I'll be honest with you. I really don't know very much about boxing at all. Just to be honest with you, I don't really watch it, but I did recognize that as you were helping, prepare Bud Crawford for the fight, that it was just intensive, because I kind of kept up with you on social media, saw all the places you all were going, all the things you were doing, and didn't really even understand the significance of it. But I asked him, and he said, we'll see how things go, but I just appreciate him still being willing to come in after they've gotten to that point and been successful, because I know things have gotten even crazier afterwards, right? And so, but it's been awesome to hear your story so far. Just kind of, recapping things, folks, Chet and his commitment, his discipline, all the things that he really aspires to do. It started when he was young. It really the foundation was built for him. He saw excellence around him. He wanted to pursue that. He committed himself to the ideals of just, being a person who follows through, who tries to be successful at the highest level. He talked to us a little bit about his journey in that, how he decided to move on from certain things because he just wasn't passionate about it anymore. Talked to us about that from a academic perspective, a physical perspective, and just, figuring out, gosh, I can make money and I can do things on my own, just kind of that business mindset. He's walked us through his time in banking, his time in the pharmaceutical industry. And then in 2012, he opens a gym. And, really his desire at that point in time is to take all these things that he's learned and incorporate it into something that's going to generate change in the community, but also help him be financially independent. And so tell us about what it was like owning that business, Chet, and just knowing that you were the person behind the scenes that was making sure that everything had to run. How difficult was that?
So I had 2 business partners when I first opened doors.
Okay.
We kind of, I already had the idea, I already had the space, but I had 2 friends. One was already doing personal training.
Okay.
The other one, just had a desire to do it. He actually opened a nonprofit called Maze, Metro Area Youth Services in Omaha.
Okay.
And so he knew, hey, this is something I do want to do. I have to kind of do it part-time. But initially we didn't have like a solid structure. It was really 3 trainers coming together that, will share space and, share the lease space. And, you got 3 ways of paying the bills instead of, 1. So
gotcha.
Essentially I just knew I loved, helping people, make change. I knew I loved being in the gym atmosphere.
Right.
Loved working out. And so, when we opened doors, I just assumed that, hey, if Facebook was around, I'm telling people about it, the doors are going to flood. And it just doesn't work that way.
It does not work that way. No.
And really, when it comes to business, I think a lot of people learn is, you got friends and people that you're close to, can I get a discount? Or,
that's right.
Or can, your customers, your clients typically aren't going to be your friends and family. Not saying they didn't support in different ways, like they would, even my parents would support, hey, we'll pop out for a workout, or give me a plan just, because they wanted to see you succeed. But
right.
The majority of your clientele, how you're going to succeed is going to be people you've never met.
That's right.
And so I wasn't afraid to, be in the grit and the grind and work out the mud. And, I had the business background that, developing business cards and the website and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
We had a nice name, Warrior Fitness Center. It was called Warrior Fitness Center.
Okay.
I just always felt like I had that warrior mentality.
Yes.
I'm going to win and I'm going to fight. And the first few months it struggled.
Yeah.
We ended up doing some Groupon,
I remember Groupon, man, they were taking half the money. It was a shared revenue model. Highway robbery.
They find the cheapest price in town.
That's right.
They take a little off that.
Yes.
And, then they say, this is the price we're going to, it's going to be half of that.
Yep.
And then, we're also going to take half of that half. So, it brought some people in the door, but it
right.
definitely didn't make money.
Right.
And that type of clientele in the gym world, a lot of they're going to be group hopping, they're doing group classes instead of personal training.
Mm-hmm.
And then, once your Groupon runs out, then they're going to try somewhere else.
Yeah.
I did have that mentality that everybody that came in my door, I was going to work out with, and I was going to be their bunny and push them.
Yeah.
We listened to hip hop and, the music was good. Our gym style was different. We had one side that was like turf space. We had side that was rubber mats and weights and a lot of outdoor space. And we had this big sandbox. We could do some sandbox training. So our gym looked different. The trainers were different. And, like I put in the work and I put in the grind. And, like I always felt like no matter who came in my doors, even if it was a Bud Crawford,
right?
Like I want to see where I'm at.
Yep.
Let me see if you're where I'm at. Cause like I love the work.
Yes.
I love the grind.
Yeah.
So like I said, Groupon, it kept a somewhat of a small people's, then word of mouth.
Yeah.
And then I was able to get into Shape Magazine as one of their top 50 hottest trainers.
Oh, wow.
And that opened the Omaha Magazine article.
Yeah.
Omaha World Herald. I started getting some professional football players, some NFL guys like Zach Bowman, I think was my favorite.
Man, Zach Bowman, man, he's a good dude.
Like my first one. And then
wow,
it led to some other guys coming in.
Yeah.
And then, Terrence, he fought Ygritte Gamboa at the Quest Center. It was the Quest Center at the time, not CHI.
Not the CHI, yeah.
But, I remember going to that fight, with a friend of mine, and they walked by, and I'm like, man, I'm going to train that guy. And, he just looks at me like, whatever, but
right.
that was kind of always the mentality. Like, even when I told people that I worked with at the bank, I'm going to open a gym.
Right.
They kind of like, what, you've never even worked at a gym, whatever, like you're just crazy, But,
you just love to work out,
Yeah, exactly. But I had that mentality that's going to work. So
that's
I manifested
awesome.
it. You got to manifest the stuff that you really believe that you're going to do. It starts with belief.
That's right.
And, if you don't believe it, then you've already failed, So I reached out to the team. Bud, he got back to me about a month later, said I try it out. He popped out. Really, I'm just thinking I want to promote my gym. Look who trained here today, put it on my Facebook page. And,
right.
He wanted to come out 2 days later, loved it, and was just like, hey, we do training camps for 6 weeks in Colorado Springs. And, I want you to be my strength coach. I want you there.
Wow.
So, I was just like, give me a few days, because I don't even know what that looks like. I got to walk away from my business to do that.
Yes.
And, just give me a few days and I'll get back to you. And he was just like, well, you've got until tomorrow. This is on a Friday.
Right.
Because we leave Sunday.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, man, I got to
leap of faith, huh?
Yeah. So,
yeah.
At that time, I'm like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to be a part of this team. And,
right.
At that time, my gym was thriving. Like this is 2014, 2015. And, my group camp classes, like I had one core class that had, 60 people in it.
Yeah.
60, like 3 times a week, like it was, and my personal trainings were full, like I was like, really, the business was thriving,
Yes.
And what you learn, in business is you walk away from those people. Every time I came back from a training camp, I'm building my business back.
Yeah.
Those people are happy for you, but they need their person.
That's
they need
right.
Their trainer.
That's right. Yeah.
Even if you had other people in the door, they're not you. They're coming to you. They're paying you.
Right.
They're coming for you. So, like that's one thing that I learned about my business is, this camp and being a part of this team is, special for me. And, like I don't regret it one bit. But
right.
At the same time, my business started to take a hit, and that's when 2018 came around. I was just like, you know what?
Yeah.
It's time to, lock up doors. It's just not what it used to be. And it's hard to keep the clientele around and,
and still kind of be leaving and coming back and different things like that.
Let's look at some other opportunities, in the meantime, if I'm not going to camp, some other things that I could be doing. So
gotcha. So that's so interesting that, and I'm happy that you bring that into this space because, we talk about a wide range of things on the Law of Lift. And one of the things that I always recognize about people, and one thing I'm going to put a pin in really quick here is just this weekend, I was at an event with a gentleman named Myron Golden, big motivator guy out of Tampa, Florida. He was here in Omaha and he was talking about the importance of belief. And he was talking about believing, and he was talking about, when you defeat yourself and you don't believe and you don't have faith that you can do it, just like you said, you defeat yourself immediately, right? If you say, I can't do this, you won't do it because you can't do something that you say you can't do, right? It's just that's just not the way our brains work. It's not the way our bodies work. Even from a physical perspective, right? You've likely seen people lift things, do things physically. We'll talk a little bit foreshadowing here about some significant physical odds that this gentleman right here in the studio has overcome. But, you've seen people lift things that you wouldn't possibly imagine that they could lift. And they said that they could do it. They manifested it. They did it. And so you talked about this idea of the gym. And what's so poignant to me, it sticks out. You're standing there at the Quest Center and you see Bud walk by and you say, I'm going to train that guy one of these days, right? And your friend's probably looking at you like, okay, whatever, right? Yeah. And you manifested it. And of course, there's a lot of work that goes behind manifestation. We have to keep believing. We have to keep having faith in the fact that we're going to do it. But it starts with just saying, I can do it. And so for my listeners, I want you to know you are capable of doing. And when people say that, I don't think people truly do believe it. And that's the beginning of the end for them. Believe that you can do what you put your mind to. It's going to take a significant amount of time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears. Trust and believe, but you can do it. And it starts with you just saying, I'm going to do this. And so you did that, and you left. You just took a leap of faith, and you got to that camp in Colorado Springs, I would assume, right? And so you were there, and honestly, for you, as you thought about your whole progression and all the things that you had to do to get to that point where here you are focused in on one person, someone who's excellent, and hopefully at that time, things, again, like you said, back at the gym, they were running, but they also, there's challenges because people don't understand how much of their business they are and how much of their business is them, right? Like a business is a personality. It really is. Your business is a representation of you. And in a space like that, you can't just hand someone off to someone else, right? But what was it like for you to kind of start taking that leap of faith and be, you were down the path that you wanted to be down, but then all of a sudden there's this interesting detour. And again, like you said, and I love the way you articulate it, because you said that was great for you to be in that camp because you're off doing something special. And, but at the same time, there were some other things that suffered as a result of it. So what was it like to kind of take that significant detour and start to work specifically with one person as a pro athlete like that?
I mean, it was an experience that, like I hadn't had previously, like working, I worked with other athletes, other boxers that were amateurs, MMA guys, some professional athletes that would see me on their off time.
Right.
But, like actually being a part of a professional team.
Yeah.
And, like having that athlete that already has that mind, like that's one thing I didn't have to train him. And I think a lot of personal trainers can get overwhelmed or worn out of the business because, like people will be motivated when they first come see you.
For sure.
But, their own work ethic and motivations change, and it could be overnight. Like, they signed up, they're excited, they're paid for the membership. And then, then they put in the work and they realize like, I don't like putting in this work.
Yes.
And so like, that can frustrate a lot of trainers, for me, like working with this athlete, like I didn't have to motivate him.
Gotcha.
Like, there's millions of reasons on the line.
Yes.
Where his motivation's at. And I mean, I can't even say, like he's special in the sense that he knew his legacy going into the boxing as well. Like, I think he knew he wanted to be, I know he knew he wanted to be on that Mount Rushmore and one of the greatest boxers of all time.
Yes.
When he started boxing at 7.
Oh, wow.
So,
wow.
Like his
That's
work
early.
ethic,
Yes.
His work ethic, was similar. Like we had some, and I think that's kind of what connected us and, made him say, hey, I want you to be a part of the team, just because he saw that in me as well. So like working with athletes like that were just extremely refreshing, knowing that all I got to do is focus on, the programming and how we're going to get there.
Yes.
And, like I can trust that, like if you trust me, that I'm going to get you there in the right path, I trust you that you're going to do all the work that it takes to get there.
Wow.
So, like as a coach, when you got somebody that's got that type of mindset and structure, like it just makes our job so much easier. I mean, it makes it an easy job.
Yeah. But again, it starts with a belief, folks. It starts with you believing that you can do something. And, Chet has been very open about from an early age, him just kind of really, locking into this idea that if he works hard, that he can accomplish his goals. And I think that's amazing. And behind the scenes, there's a lot of work that goes into maintaining that mindset. And so, talk to us. So you get to 2018, you decide that you're going to kind of move on from the gym opportunity. What was that like for you to no longer have a business or a brick and mortar, that you're working at or whatever the case might be? And how did you shift into what the next part of your life would be about?
So, I started looking for jobs. Like, I needed consistent income through, he's not fighting all year long. So, may be a part of a camp, may not.
Yeah.
So, and just at that time, I had 2 kids, so like I got family to support.
Yeah.
And, I started looking for positions. So found this director of business development position with one medical clinic. It seemed like a good opportunity. And, they seemed like they were going to give me quite a bit of freedom, like to how to structure it, how to build the brand kit. And, like it was good. So like I popped in there, did that for a while. And, for a while it was good, and then things changed. So like COVID came around.
Yeah.
And the priorities of the clinic. Like we started doing a lot of COVID testing.
Mhm.
We were actually the first to it.
Oh, wow.
Which,
Okay.
Didn't, it raised some eyebrows. UNMC didn't like it.
Yeah.
We had some people come after us, to try to close down our tents. And,
Yeah.
they were sending me to Bell Harbor and Miami.
Mhm.
And it wasn't what, like I joined, like when I joined the organization,
Yeah.
it shifted gears to, what their interest and their business was. So,
Mhm.
and that's, I think January 6th insurrection,
Yeah.
So like, it just was like, I had lost 2 friends that month. I mean, it was just a bad
Yeah.
January 2021.
Yeah.
So like, got into some business development director role
Yep.
experience, like with a medical clinic on the healthcare back in the healthcare industry.
Mhm.
And, when that shifted and, I wasn't extremely happy, that same month, it was later that month, January 2021,
Mhm.
pivot, they gave me a severance. I was a unicorn position.
Mhm.
They didn't need the position anymore. And then,
Yeah.
2 weeks after, I'd been put on the sleeping pill called Ambien.
Okay.
So, all these things going on, in the world, personally,
Yeah.
I was having trouble sleep. The physician, he had put me on Ambien.
Mhm.
First time I took it, great night of sleep. Second time, I had a podcast that I was actually going to start with the medical director of that clinic.
Okay.
Very well-known hematologist. 40,
Oh, wow.
40 years. So, high profile trainer, high profile doctor coming together to do this podcast. Won a great night's sleep.
Mhm.
7:30, laid down, took the Ambien, laid down. I'm watching Bruce Lee Enter the Dragon.
Yeah.
And 4 days later, I woke up with a neurosurgeon saying, "Hey, Chet, are you with us?" And I'm like, I didn't even know where I was at. Like, I don't
Wow.
remember leaving my house or anything
Wow.
like that. But I had been put in an induced coma.
Oh,
and
my
was
goodness.
paralyzed from the waist down.
Oh, wow.
And this is the second time I ever took the drug. So obviously that changed the scope of everything in my life. Like, am I ever going to see a gym?
Right.
Was, like one of the first thoughts, like, am I ever going to walk again?
Right.
And, like what happened?
Mhm.
So, I mean, a lot changed.
Oh my goodness. So this is 2021.
Right.
So you kind of made it through that COVID year and you moved on from that organization, but sounds like, it's just significant change that happens in your life, this accident. And, honestly, just from the outside looking in, I can tell you all I can really remember over the course of the time frame that you had the gym and everything that you were doing is I just remember I'd always see your name, Chet Fortune, NASM, right? Online. That's what, and honestly, until I got into working in athletics, I had no idea what that meant. So I was just like, what does that mean? Right. But you were just training and you had to get that credential, right? To have the gym and to be a trainer and everything else. And so when I saw that you had been in an accident and that you were essentially paralyzed and that there was, I was just really, really wondering, like, what is the next step going to be? Like, how exactly is he going to continue doing what he does, which is keeping people at peak performance and all the motivation that you always did and everything else. And I always just see you during that time frame showing the results of people that you worked with. You were in the top shape. I mean, like always, right? And I just see that. So I really wondered what exactly are you going to do to come back from this? So talk us through that process of you slowly but surely making a return, because folks, he walked in here today. So tell us about, tell us about how you were able to come back from that and really reclaim your progression.
At that time, like even personal things that were going on, it was about the worst time of my life. You know? And it's easy to quit. It's easy to just, I remember waking up, several days because I was so heavily medicated, just like wondering, like, God, like, why'd you let me live through this? And, not necessarily blaming or being upset, just, like, why am I here? What's the point? If I'm never going to see a gym or, never going to walk again, like, like what's my purpose at this time? When I had the accident, I was actually a month out from my 5th Arnold Classic. So I was competing in, bodybuilding.
Yes, that's right.
I was in the best shape of my life.
Seriously. Yes.
Like the 2% of, everybody that I know. Like, and to go from that to, having to have somebody, come into the room and, clean me up, like just, it was depleting, like to not, to know I lost like 20, 30 pounds worth of muscle the first week I was there, because I couldn't move, like
Yeah.
my body, it looked different. And, I felt just like useless,
Mhm.
and it came a switch at one point, just waking up, for being in pain and not, being able to move any of my lower extremities, where it's just like, you know what, like I got to stop thinking negatively. Like I've always had a positive, it's going to work out because I believe in it.
Yeah.
And, I had to change that shift that mindset.
Mhm.
And, like even these doctors that, are telling me, hey, we got to get you ready for life in a wheelchair. Like,
Oh my goodness.
this is not going to be my life. Like I'm not
Yeah.
living my life in a wheelchair. So
Yeah.
I think it was an internal shift of, like the first thing that I need to change is the way I'm thinking,
Mhm.
because if I continue to think this way, I'll never have positive results. Like I've never thought this way before.
Yeah.
So, once I was able to change that mindset, like that's when I was like, well, if I can get my left toe to wiggle a little bit, then, maybe I can get a couple more toes. Maybe I can get the other leg. Maybe I can get up walking again, and maybe I can, do some great things still. So, I mean, it was really weeks and weeks of, just every morning, like really, if I got to take every single day to progress, and if it takes the rest of my life to try to walk again. I've got a 1-year-old at this time,
Yeah.
when the accident happened.
Yeah.
Like she's not going to know me like this. And I think that was my motivation, was just,
Yeah.
like this daughter at home that, like I don't want her dad, or her to know her dad is, being paralyzed. Like, I want her to be able to do fun things and activities, and know her dad is, like this He-Man that I thought I was prior to the accident.
Right. So, man, I just truly appreciate you taking us into this, folks. We're here with Coach Chet Fortune on the Law of Lift, and he's really taken us through his process of coming back from this accident, and we'll continue to talk about that when we come back after this. You're listening to the Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters. We have Coach Chet Fortune here on 93.7 The Ticket.
Harvest season is coming, and Acres has discounted many of our late model John Deere combines. Get thousands in discounts and upgrade for this year's harvest. Plus, you could save even more with interest rates starting as low as 1.9% on select units. Low interest rates combined with our huge discounts, there's not a better time to buy. Visit acres.com for all the details. That's AKRS.com. Restrictions apply. Offer ends August 31st, 2025. Subject to approved financing. Offer may change at any time without notice.
Hey fans, there's more winning at Amigos with the VIP Game Day giveaway. Every app scan is your chance to win premium tickets to a Nebraska football, basketball, and volleyball game, along with exclusive game day perks. And when Nebraska goes to a bowl, the winner also gets 2 tickets, lodging, and airfare to the bowl game. Weekly semifinalists will win free food for a year. Go Big Red. Eat at Amigos and enter to win.
Amigos is celebrating 45 years with exclusive Nebraska Legends collectible cups featuring Tom Osborne, John Cook, and some of your favorite Huskers. For every cup sold, 50 cents goes to teammates. Show your Big Red pride by getting all 4 of these collectible cups at Amigos.
This is Tom Osborne with the Teammates Mentoring Program. We have students on the waiting list for a mentor, and we want you to join the team. Learn more about mentoring and support teammates by visiting Amigos.
An overdose can happen in front of you and you might not realize it. Blue lips, slowed breathing, pinpoint pupils, choking sounds, unresponsive to touch or sounds. These signs aren't always obvious, but they can be deadly. Knowing what to do could save your friend, your neighbor, your child. Learn more by visiting myhealthymind.crediblemmind.com so you can be ready before it happens. This message is funded in part by the CDC OD2A grant.
This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at PAHLincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, their passion for happier, healthier, furry friends.
Limitless Male says it's all fun and games until your testosterone plummets. Testosterone levels can start falling as early as age 30 with symptoms like no energy, poor sleep, brain fog, belly fat, muscle loss, and mood swings. If this sounds familiar, get your testosterone checked at Limitless Male. We'll get you back in the game with more strength, energy, and confidence. When you feel this good, you'll wonder why you waited so long to get a free consult at Limitless Male. Get scheduled today.
I'm Karen Carr. I've been a realtor for 31 years. When I made a company change 12 years ago, I chose Lincoln First Realty, now NP Dodge. It's the oldest independently owned realty company in the country. Since becoming NP Dodge, we've continued our tradition of community involvement. Our management and staff are always available to offer support in marketing, technology, social media, and educational opportunities.
Expand your career with NP Dodge. Call Eric at 402-434-2222.
Are you looking to upgrade or improve the garage door on your home? This is Cameron Hall of Doors Plus. At Doors Plus, we guarantee to offer a wide selection of options from 5 leading garage door manufacturers as we deliver a free estimate, exact measurements, and rapid installation with a 3 to 5 week time frame. When you choose Doors Plus for your residential garage door needs, you'll work with our experienced technicians and be ensured that your new door seamlessly complements your home. Give us a call at 402-590-5800 or visit us online at DoorsPlusLLC.com. Doors Plus, garage doors and more.
What's better than supporting your favorite radio station and eating delicious Nebraska-made products? Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska wants to highlight you, the listener, on the 93.7 The Ticket Wall of Fame at the store. Stop by the store at 48th and R in Lincoln and see their huge variety of small batch gourmet jerky. Or if you're not in the area and want to try some, go to SmokingGunJerky.com and enter code EARLY for 10% off your purchase. It's the ultimate low-calorie, high-protein snack at Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust, member FDIC.
Now back to the Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
That's right. We're back. We are hearing from Coach Chet Fortune in here. Just an absolutely unique and amazing story. And, it's just been awesome to spend some time with him today. And, what I really appreciate about his perspective is that, it starts with belief. It starts with this concept that you can do something and then you just keep pushing yourself. You keep pushing through these things. And, he was just really giving us some insight into, his journey back from, very substantial injuries in an accident that, he was in back in early 2021. And just this concept of being told that he was paralyzed from the waist down and slowly but surely working his way back and slowly but surely overcoming these challenges on a day-to-day basis. So Chet, how long were you in the hospital after that accident?
So I was in the hospital for 3 months and they wanted to send me to like an advanced rehabilitation Madonna. But at that time, again, COVID was, rampant. So you were wearing a mask all the time. I had this, brace that went from the top of my waist all the way up my neck. It was extremely uncomfortable. And anytime I'd even try to take it off a little bit, I'd have doctors putting it right back on, saying, so I just wanted to be out of the hospital setting. But in the hospital for 3 months. And, it was against doctor's orders, to go home after that. But, I was adamant about, going home. I've got the mindset, I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Wow. And so 3 months in the hospital and, when you left, by the time you left, did you have any sensation in your lower body at that point in time? Had you already been able to kind of slowly, did you start having some feeling coming back before that?
So the first 2 months, like really almost 10 weeks, I couldn't even sit up. Like if they try to put me in a tilt bed, which straps you down and then lifts the whole bed, lifts you up. My blood pressure would drop 80/60. I'd start sweating profusely, feel like I was going to vomit. And or pass out.
Wow.
And, it was like stroke level, blood pressure.
Mhm.
And, like we just had a hard time just getting me to stabilize. Like they get me in a chair, it'd take another 15 minutes just to, kind of calm me down. They get me to the physical therapy area in the hospital.
Yeah.
And, we wouldn't be able to do much. I couldn't stand like even holding parallel bars or
Oh, wow.
I was
Okay.
no movement in the legs.
Mhm.
And about 10 weeks later, I had them take me off the pain medication.
Uh-huh.
And, from there, like there was one morning where I felt like I could move my toe a little bit.
Yeah.
And, like this 10 weeks later, we had this one apparatus that I'd never tried. It was like a walker that had forearm, like bars, like you put your forearms on it and then you held these little handles and, you could walk from there. I was just like, that's the only thing we haven't tried. Let's try it. If my legs can kind of get moving some kind of way, some
Yeah.
blood flow.
Mhm.
And, they were just like, well, we can't even get you to stand up in the parallel bars
Right.
without passing out and somebody holding you with it, but whatever, we'll try it. And, first time they got me up at that,
Mhm.
got down the hallway.
Oh my
The
goodness.
hallway, yeah. I mean,
Wow.
I went from like not walking to, and then so that last like 2 weeks
Yeah.
at the hospital, we started doing some other things. We were getting some progress.
Mhm.
And, at that time they were just like, we're not going to order because they can only order on my insurance one medical device.
I see.
We're not going to order a wheelchair. You're going to be getting out of here on a walker, like,
Oh,
and,
wow.
and so like I was in a walker
Yeah.
probably another 6 months,
Mhm.
after getting out the hospital.
Yeah.
And then one night I was upstairs, door had knocked or somebody rang the doorbell. And I'm like, I live in a raised ranch. So, basement, you're kind of already in, you got to go upstairs.
Yes.
And so I'm like, okay, let me get down the stairs. And I was the only one home. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go downstairs because I can't do it with my walker. I'm holding on to the bars, but I'm going to get upstairs without it and see if I can make it around the house without it. And I got upstairs and, kind of got to the couch and I'm like, I'm not touching that walker again.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was about 6 months before, I was off the walker and
Mhm.
I haven't used it ever since.
Oh my goodness. So you just willed yourself back to a point where you could do these things and what's the mindset of just working your way back through all the physical pain that you're experiencing, all the doubt that you have? I'm sure some of the setbacks, right? Where there's just times that your body was doing things that you didn't expect it to, right? And how do you keep working toward getting back to, I guess, whatever normalcy is after something like that happens, despite some of those challenges and setbacks? How do you keep doing that?
I mean, I think I get off on somebody telling me I can't do something,
Mhm.
just because I think we live in a world where we're all, God's children and
Yes.
we're all special. And, like it takes, some talent to do some great things.
Yep.
But, ultimately, like work is where it starts. And I've always had that, work ethic I'll work my, and I'll do whatever I need to do to
Right.
get the job done.
Yes.
And so, like for me, it was just like I knew, I loved being in the gym and I loved, the work that it took.
Mhm.
And now I've got a new goal. My goal is not necessarily physique
Yeah.
driven, but at the same time, like even if it's like small progress,
Yeah.
I can say the first training camp that I was back compared to where I'm at today
Yes.
is night and day. Even though, even today I've got quite a bit of pain.
Yeah.
Like even when I walked in, I told you like, oh man, I didn't get the best sleep. My body's not, what it should be.
Yeah.
And I'm, like walking slow, but I'm walking.
Yeah.
I see somebody in a wheelchair, like I remember those moments
Right.
being in a wheelchair or being in a bed and thinking like, man, I just wish I could take a step,
Yeah.
so like
Yeah.
I'm grateful, I'm
Yeah.
humble, I'm blessed with each day. And each day I wake up with that mindset. I'm gonna put, some work in today to get a little, step ahead of where I was yesterday.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, when I saw you and you walked up, and again, I kind of talked to you a little bit about just following your journey from outside of the bubble, and seeing just how incredibly in shape you were before when you were doing some of the bodybuilding and stuff. And I was just like, man, this thing's like taking off in a whole different direction. This guy is like so serious about, his lifting and everything else that he does. I was just like, wow, and just seeing all the stuff that you were doing and just how committed you were to your craft. And, to see you walk up today and just know, the challenges that you've had to overcome in the last 4 years or so, and just all the things that you've been able to do still, despite some of those challenges. I just want to tell you, I I'm so grateful that you chose to come down here and be on my show because, like I said, you've motivated me and inspired me from afar because I'm looking at you and I'm like, this man just went through that and now he's doing this and now he's got this on the horizon and he still, wakes up every day with this expectation of himself that he's not going to stop and he's going to keep moving forward, and you're doing amazing things. And so I was just happy to get you here today just so I could tell you, man, I have so much respect for you, and I really appreciate, the level of resilience that you have. And I just say that just because I want you to understand, that, my show is about inspirational people, and it's about people who've overcome challenges and somehow found their way back into positive spaces. And I think anybody can do that. It's just really hard, right? Because when you're going through that process and you're struggling and you're just trying to figure out, how am I going to do tomorrow? How am I going to get through today? How am I going to get through this moment? But to hear you talk about saying things like, I'm never going to touch that walker again, or, hey, why don't you put me up on this different apparatus, even though you can't even sit me up in this chair, right? Like, and you're having faith in this ideal that you can do it and that you're not going to give up once you get to that point. You're just going to keep pushing forward. And I think that's so inspirational for people who are going through challenging times right now, that they actually can be the ones to lift themselves, up out of those challenging times. And it's just about that commitment to the follow through and the discipline that it takes to not allow yourself to slide back. You just have to keep moving forward. Right.
Sure.
And so talk to us a little bit more about, this most recent camp with Bud Crawford, and just you're dealing with your own things on a day-to-day basis. How do you show up for someone like that and help someone like that get to this level of just being elite? How do you do that? And it's not the only person you've done that with. You've done it with a wide range of people as far as like supporting people through athletic training and the motivation that it takes to do that. How do you do that work?
I mean, I think, one great thing about, being around Bud, and, like, he just, again, when he's done boxing, he'll be considered one of the greatest ever.
Mhm.
And, we motivate each other, in that respect.
Yeah.
Like, one of the reasons why he asked me, and it was actually the Sean Porter camp, it
Mhm.
was like shortly after my accident. It was one of the first times he was just like, just get in the gym. We want to see you, make sure you're good. And, went to the gym, took my youngest daughter, and he's just like, hey, I want you to be a part of this camp.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, right now, my body is just not built for it.
Yeah.
And then, I trained some other champions with our boxing team. Keyshawn Davis, I think, was my first
Mhm.
fighter that I was back. And, Bud saw me in the gym, was just like, hey, the Spence fight's coming.
Yeah.
And, you need to be a part of it. And like, so seeing greatness, like just being that close to it,
Yep.
like, is going to inspire a lot of people. I mean, he inspires all the fighters that are around him and
Yes.
part of his boxing academy.
Yeah.
He inspires other athletes, to excel at a higher level than anybody is, so I think, for me, when I get around these guys in a training camp atmosphere,
Yeah.
and, like, if I am putting in work with them,
Mhm.
then it's not about, I'm doing something as fast or as strong or jumping as high or, doing something on their level. It's just
Right.
pushing myself to, a limit or somewhere I've never been.
Yes.
Like, I know he's, like, every single session, he's putting everything he can into it.
Yep.
So I might not feel great. There might be some pain right now. but
Right.
I'm gonna put everything I can into this. you know,
Yes.
like, and, to that point where sometimes where he's tired and, like, we've done all this work, we've worked out 6 hours that day, and,
Mhm.
we're sitting at home and, he's eating, and then relaxing, gonna relax for the night. And then all of a sudden he's like, I'm gonna go for a run for 3 miles down this mountain. Like, okay, well, like, if you can push yourself
Right.
to levels that everybody else is tired, worn out, beat, like, it's a mindset, even physically. I think for most people, and I tell people this in training all the time,
Mhm.
is, your body is going to quit. I mean, your mind is going to quit before your body does.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times, like, I can't, that's too heavy, that's too this, that. Like, no, your mind is already defeating, the
Yes.
process.
Yes.
And so if you can, push your mind past that, you'll be surprised what your body physically can handle and manage. And I think it's no different in my situation. Is just,
Yeah.
Your body, there's a lot of chronic pain, there's a lot of issues, there's,
Right.
Some stabilization and mobility issues.
Yeah.
But, like, if my mind's already broken down at the point where, I can't get past these things, then no, I never will. So, you know, like if I want to be better, the first thing I need to do is, you know, tell myself I'm going to find a way. You know, maybe today wasn't the best day. Maybe these things didn't work. Well, let's try something else. you know? Let's try something that does work, you know, and continue to fight until you find it.
That's amazing. Continue to fight until you find it. And just, man, it's so awesome to hear you articulate that day-to-day struggle, because I think that's something that, you know, people have a challenge to do, is just kind of thinking about, okay, how do I talk about what that day-to-day struggle is like? And I can hear you saying that it's just fighting all the time and trying to figure out a way. And, you know, while we kind of had a break, you know, you're kind of talking about how the backslide can happen if you're not necessarily feeling good for a few days, and that, you know, it could all go away. Right. And I think that fighting mentality that you have, you're just in a position in your life where you're not going to allow that to happen. And because of what you do and how, you know, there's this excellence that you bring to people around you, I think that consistently provides you with motivation too, like seeing what you can help bring out of other people. Right. And just your capabilities to motivate other people and figure out ways to like push people to their limit and then beyond. Because I think what people realize is that they do have so much more than what they think they have. Right. And that's one of the things that, honestly, as a mental health professional, I really can stake, you know, in with folks, is just that you can do so much more than you possibly think you can. It's just a matter of consistently believing in the fact that you can do these things, right? And even when there's these physical limitations, or what people would believe to be those physical limitations, you've had to work back from some pretty long odds from a physical perspective, and you've been able to do that. And I think that's just incredibly amazing. And I really, truly appreciate you being willing to articulate what that's like. And then also talking about being around people who are elite and championship level with the mindset of, you know what, I think I have a little bit more. I'm going to go push myself again. Right. Like, and that is just seems to be more of a pretty persistent journey that you're on now. Is just every single day having to like say, okay, how am I going to maximize this day? How am I going to maximize this opportunity? And so, you know, as we think about that, what would you say just kind of it was like when you get to the end of this last fight and Bud comes out on top as a trainer, as somebody who was in the trenches with him during that time frame? What was that like for you when that victory, you know, to experience that victory?
I mean, I had about 20 pictures sent to me. Because Netflix captured a spot like right before he walked out, you know, and I've got this like cheese from the smile ear to ear. And I'm just smiling, you know, like, and it wasn't because I'm like glazing it, like I'm not glazing over nobody, you know, but I knew the work that we put in. We knew what the result was going to be prior to, you know, him even walking out. Like, you know, like we just knew, like Bud's big on manifestation. He's big in, you know, his belief and, you know, what God's plan for him is. And, you know, we knew exactly what it was going to. So like all the work, it came to a head, you know, we put in all the work. We, you know, we knew it didn't matter what they did, you know, we knew what we did. And ultimately, when you put in that much work to something that, you know, is a goal of yours, you know, like that's the fun part. The fight's the fun part. You know, like we put in the work. Now let's go have some fun, you know, and the atmosphere was just, you know, incredible. We sold out Allegiant, you know, first sellout at Allegiant, you know.
That's amazing. And so we'll hear more about that and just kind of like being at that pinnacle. When we get back, you're listening to Law of Lift on 93.7 The Ticket.
At Valentino's, we're on a mission for tradition. On every slice, for every bite. Golden baked crust, cooked to perfection every time. Savory sweet sauce that's made from our own secret recipe. Loaded with the perfect amount of fresh toppings and melty mozzarella cheese. It's the tradition that Nebraskans have come to love. From game day to every day. Valentino's. Taste the tradition.
A1 Automotive's second location is now open at 5110 State Hill Drive, just off of Yankee Hill Road. The new location continues to specialize in all makes and models and provides personalized service as they have for 15 years. With the school year here, A1 Automotive reminds you that college students get 10% off any service, and they offer free tire repair with a valid college ID. Schedule your appointment today at a1autolincoln.com and visit their new location in South Lincoln at 5110 State Hill Drive or downtown at 11th and L.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? You need an attorney you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. The The attorneys at Liberty Law Group understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Call Liberty Law and find out how we can help you get the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. Call the trial attorneys you can trust. 877-42-LIBERTY.
Schwizo Construction is now hiring for skilled craftsmen, steel erectors, concrete workers, and general laborers. Schwizo Construction offers great benefits like premium wages, health and dental insurance, paid holidays and vacation, 401k with company match, life insurance, and disability insurance. They pride themselves on a legacy of 40 years built on integrity and trust. Joining their team means becoming part of a family that values hard work, dedication, and mutual respect. Apply today at schwizo.com. That's SCHWISOW.com.
Breaking here at the news desk. When you stack Allo Internet, DirecTV, and mobile, you can lock in your price for 2 years. Sources are confirming that when you stack Allo Internet, DirecTV, and mobile, your monthly price drops and you're locked in for 2 years. That's fiber fast internet, premium streaming TV, and reliable nationwide mobile coverage. And this just in, you must switch by Labor Day to secure that locked-in pricing for 2 years. Switch, stack, and save at allofiber.com/stack.
Bring new life to metal treasures with Kaiser Blasting and Coatings. From railings and fences to outdoor furniture and unique antiques, their expert team removes years of rust and weathering, then finishes each piece with a lasting powder coat. Trusted by industries across the region, now local homeowners and businesses can experience the same professional care. Visit KaiserBlasting.com or call 402-421-3559 to request your quote. Restore, protect, and make your metal shine like never before with the help of Kaiser Blasting and Coatings.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Now back to the Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
That's right. We're back. Just wrapping this up. We have Coach Chet Fortune in here with us today. Man, I've just been motivated today. I've been inspired today. This guy's always inspired me, though. Ever since the first time I met him, he's just been about his business. Just like, you know what? I have this idea. This is what I want to do. I've just always been motivated by his energy. So to watch his progression and watch his journey and have the opportunity to have him on my show and hear a little bit about what was happening behind the scenes and some of these stories that I was seeing on the other side, it's just been uplifting for me today. And what a great weekend. What a great end of my weekend. I was telling him, I got the opportunity to go to a conference earlier this week, with a gentleman named Myron Golden, who's a big motivator. And I've just been like inundated this weekend with this concept of manifestation. And, my wife and I, we always talk about this idea of manifestation, like you can make it happen. You can make it happen. And I think people sometimes they feel like, oh, that's mysterious. That's like mystical. It is mystical. It is mysterious, but it's faith. It's faith you have on a consistent basis every day that you can do something and you do it. It doesn't happen unless you do it. So you have to do it. You have to believe that you can do it. And the more you believe, the more you realize your capacity to do these amazing things just keeps increasing, right? You talked about this fight. Could you imagine what people in Vegas from a betting perspective would think as far as like all the work that they try to do to figure out who's going to win the fight when you're saying that this guy from the age of 7 said that he was going to be on the Mount Rushmore of boxers. From the age of 7, you said that. And just to know that there's people who are out there who would want to bet against that, right? It's like you can't bet against somebody who's so committed and just absolutely dedicated to winning. And guess what? You might get them down once or twice, but they're going to come back and they're going to keep coming back, and that belief. And so from your story today, what I've really truly learned is just this concept of resilience and grit, and just this idea of, working hard, having faith in the concept that you can do something and that you can overcome long odds. You all, Chet was talking to us about an accident he was in back in 2021. And in the hospital for 3 months, paralyzed from the waist down, talked about, you know, the possibility of a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And with his faith and his commitment day to day, he was able to work his way back. And he had so many reasons behind that, you know. And it's just been so amazing to hear from you today, though, and then hear a little bit more about your journey. But, you know, when we left off, you were talking about just the absolute overwhelming feeling of joy when you all were able to kind of feel this victory that you'd worked so hard for, you know, over the course of the last few months with Bud. And, you know, talk us through just what that was like for you as you reflected in that moment on your journey, you know. And I just think about you coming back from like being in that hospital bed to being, you know, ringside at one of the biggest fights we've had in recent history. And you were a major component behind the training, physical success of this gentleman. And how did that feel, being there in that space, in that moment, thinking back to like, how am I going to get out of this hospital bed? Like, what was that like for you?
I mean, yeah, in the hospital, I was thinking, you know, am I ever gonna work again? You know, like that was kind of and you know, getting out of the hospital, I could have easily got on disability. But,
Yeah.
you know, that was my mindset. Like, you know, I can't not. I'm just always doing something. Always have my hands involved, and I'm on the go. And
Yeah.
you know, like I'm not chalking it up. You know,
Yeah.
this young, and so you know, like when it came to like the fight night, you know,
Yeah.
and that feeling, you know, I think Bud had put it at one point, like Womack, you know, he was talking to him right before he walked out, and you know, like Bud looked at him like, you know, it's already written.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not worried at all. Like, you know, there's no nerves at all, just because it's written. And I felt like a lot of my life and belief has been
Yeah.
that same type of, you know, like mindset. Like, you know, when I first did my first camp with Bud,
Yeah.
I sat down, you know, a couple weeks before the fight, right before we left to go to the fight city. And it was with Womack and Red, another one of the boxing coaches. And,
Yeah.
you know, Bo had asked me, this is the first fight that I've been with him, first camp. We're just finalizing camp. And he's like, you know, what's it like to join one of the top boxing, you know, teams in the world?
Yeah.
And when Bud's done, and I've told other people this too, when Bud's done, this is 2014, with boxing, you know, he's going to be considered like the Michael Jordan of boxing.
Wow.
And I'm thinking like, okay, you know, and I was just like, I believe it, because, you know, he's got this work ethic, and
Yeah.
he's an amazing boxer. But, you know, what's it like? You know, like I really believe I'm one of the greatest strength coaches in the world. You
Yeah.
know, like I feel like I should be here. So I think
Yes.
even fight night, you know, like I felt like, you know, like given where I was, you know, from not walking or not thinking that I might work again,
Right.
like, you know, and having that mindset, like, no, like I've still got great things to do,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So like, I felt like, you know, it all this work we've done over the last several years, you
Yeah.
know, me individually, Bud individually, but you know, like if you really have that same mindset, that same work ethic, and that same consistency,
Yeah.
you get to that, you know, like that legacy. That was a legacy moment for him,
Yes.
you know. But like I feel like I still have, you know, other great things. Like as great as that was, I feel like I'm gonna have other great things that are still yet to be done. Like, you know, in a way,
Right.
the accident, you know, probably was for a reason. Like, you know, like not everybody cares about fitness or working out. Not everybody, even though I can motivate them.
Yeah.
Not everybody cares about boxing.
Yeah.
But you know, everybody's got some challenge in their life that they have to overcome. There's
Yes.
a lot more people I can touch
Yes.
from a public speaking perspective, which you know, I
Yes.
public speak,
Yes.
than I ever could have, you know, without that. And those challenges, you know, like I can talk about like cliches and manifestation.
Yes.
It's a lot of people cliche, but if you've actually got the resume and that example,
Right.
you know, now I've got, when I go talk about these things, like, hey, here's the great things you can do and overcome.
Yes.
I've got that backing, and you know, like that Canelo fight was a part of that
Yes.
historic greatness that
Yes.
just empowers my story. You know,
Absolutely.
to help others.
And that's amazing. And you know, that motivation and the time and effort that you put into your craft and all the things that you've done, there's a reason that Bud chose you to help prepare him. And you know, there's a reason that all these things happen, and there's some really tough things that happen to us over the course of our life that make us who we are and create who we are and make us, you know, the people who are the characters in our story. And those are really challenging things. And so I really like the way that you put that, you know, this accident and how much it's changed your life and your perspective and allowed you to then step into spaces and speak to people in a very powerful way. So if people do want you to public speak, how can they get in touch with you to have you come in and do some public speaking for them?
So my email is chet@coachchet.com.
Okay.
My website is coachchet.com. But if specifically for speaking, I've
Yes.
got chetspeaks.com.
Okay. Chetspeaks.com. Okay.
And then if they want to find, just follow, they can follow me on LinkedIn, Chet
Yes.
Fortune, and then Instagram I use, which is just Strength Condition Coach. So, any of those outlets, there's
Okay.
a way to inbox me or send me a message.
Yeah.
By all means, reach out.
I encourage you to follow this guy because he has, a lot of great content that he puts out and just has been in some really unique spaces and places and has an incredible story. And I'm just so happy that you made the decision to be on my show today. I truly appreciate you. Any shout outs that you'd like to give here as we get kind of toward the end? Any shout outs to people in your life and people who inspire you?
I'd like to shout out my brother. He's getting married this week, so I should shout him out on the radio.
That's awesome.
I'm missing it just because I've got a couple of engagements. This is his second marriage, but it's in Wisconsin, a little small town.
Yeah.
But I hate to miss it. But I'd like to shout out my team, obviously Team Crawford.
Yeah.
We've been doing a lot of talking about them. And then, I'd like to shout out Dr. Lawrence Chatters for having me on the show, just because it, gives me a platform to tell my story, which I appreciate you having me on. So as much as you valued me being here, I value being here as well.
Oh, well, I truly appreciate it. There's just so many different challenges that I think people face on a daily basis. And I think when we can lift up these inspirational stories of really significant things that people have gone through, that it can motivate people. And so if you're out there struggling today, I hope you can get support that you need, but just recognize that you are capable. You can do it. And it's just a matter of believing and consistently getting through that challenge on a day-to-day basis. And it's possible. Coach Chet, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today, being on my show. Congrats for all your success and everything that you do. And as I say on my show all the time, for you folks out there who are struggling, I hope you have the opportunity to lift off. You've been listening to The Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters and Coach Chet Fortune. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. 93.7 The Ticket. Take care.